Hey everybody, and this is Know Your Role. Now, Know Your Role is pretty much the RPG part of the channel, and what we're going to do today is we're going to flip through these two magazines from Paizo Publishing, Dragon Magazine and Dungeon Magazine. I'm going to flip through both because there's more to talk about in Dragon and lesser to share in Dungeon. The best way for me to explain that is to show you why, right? I've chosen this particular Dragon magazine because, well, it's got Westeros in it, and everybody loves a little bit of Westeros. Um, Now, Dragon was first published in 1976. To viewers who've been following this, who've been playing RPGs since whenever, since it first started, right? This is not news at all to you. So this is more for the new RPGers, so the new guests and hobbyists to the hobby. Why? Because it's just a look at uh, materials that are available or resources that are available to us back in the day that if you were to find, you can probably use for yourself right now. So for the older gamers, this is probably a blast from the past. For newer gamers, consider this just some extra, knowledge or something to maybe perhaps inspire you to do your own little Dragon magazine or fanzine or whatever it is. Now the sad bit is Dragon magazine as a printed magazine ended in 2007. So most of the magazines you're gonna find are probably in the bargain bin or somebody's collection. If you were to find this, go and get it. It'll be something that it's good to read if you are really interested in doing D&D, playing a lot of D&D, because it's got a lot of great ideas and stuff like that. This one is from, I think, 2000. There's a date here somewhere. I think 2003. I think. Okay, let's kick it off. First off, the Winter Nights. The best RPG. I would almost agree. I quite enjoyed Neverwinter Nights. I spent a lot of hours on this one. Anyways, we're not here to talk about Neverwinter Nights. We're here to talk about Dragon magazine, and we start off with the table of contents, and then we have Reaper miniatures, which is kind of cool because I'm a miniature kind of guy as well. So to see all these old miniatures is fantastic, right? So Dark Heaven legends and Cav and stuff like that, right? Which is it's nice. Moving along, we got the editor, sharing that this is gonna be about Westeros more or less, and then we've got Golden Sun, an ad for Golden Sun, and then we got the readers mail. When magazines like this used to be published, a lot of readers would send in like mail, and this is an opportunity for the editor or the writers to answer, which is something it's kind of nice. I'm kind of sad that this doesn't happen anymore. I'm sure it does now in emails and stuff like that, but it's too fast. This you had to wait a whole month to see it to read new suggestions, like for example, suggestions from readers and stuff like that. Anyways, moving along, we got an ad for Tropico 2 Pirate Cove. This is a city builder, a pirate city builder. Now, how about that? Now, if you look over here we have Zugonia. Now, Zugonia pretty much is it's comic strips, right? They've actually compiled the comic strips for Zugonia in a book, right? It's a compilation book called Zugonia, A Slice of Death. You can actually get it secondary market by Tony Mosley. I think if you can find this, it's basically D&D strips from Dragon magazine. Anyways, moving along, we got Mongoose Publishing with an ad. Mongoose just drew a lot of like RPG stuff, and then they did a whole lot of major stuff as well. I think they still do, in fact. And then we got ad for Gen Con, and then we have Legends and Lairs, and this is Fantasy Flight, which for those of you guys who've been gaming for the past 10 years will be very familiar with the company. Now, here's also something very, very interesting. Up on the soapbox, you see an article by Gary Gygax, which is great, right? It's always great to have like a, the person who created the whole hobby, right, to write an article, or at least an opinion piece, which I think is great to be included in a magazine like this, right? And then you got house rules, introduction to house rules, and you got dice, and then you got things like this. Now, Dragon is mostly for like players. It's mostly lore. It's mostly like suggestions and stuff like that. While Dungeon is more for dungeon masters. So, but we'll get to Dungeon in a bit. Now, why do I say that? It's because articles like this, Open Skies, pretty much talks about the Silver Strike Guild, and what this is it's basically a group that specializes in the liberation of oppressed mounts. If that strikes your fancy, here's everything that you need to include this into your game. And this is where the strength of Dragon comes along, right? Because what it does is introduces something, and you can choose to use it. And if you do want to use it, they'll share, tips on how to add this to your campaign, right? Or if you want to use this for one of your characters, there are little bars like this to show how to make this into your character. Make characters that use the Silver Strike Guild as your core base, right? And then we have how to join and stuff like that. So all the background to include the Silver Strike Guild to your game, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then you got transhuman space, and this is GURPS. Riffs, GURPS, man, these are all the words that the RPG world was filled with a long while back. And what this is basically a different system altogether. Next up is an article called Monsters in the Alley, and what these are monsters that use thievery and deception to has challenges or encounters with your characters. Things like I'm gonna destroy this. The Duomervor and the Splinter Wave, and there's another one here, and the Willora, and there's a Trap Haunt. No, is it Trap Haunt? Trap Haunt is supposed to be one of those things where it's like a rogue that's been captured or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. I was just giving a quick read before while trying to share this magazine. Next up, we got Cartographica, and these are maps, right? Maps that you can use, and then carry on the article with the Willora, right? As the Willora, Splinter Wave, Duomervor. Yeah, these are the ones. Anyways, next up is an ad for Confrontation. Strange. Confrontation is a miniature game, and for it to be here, I guess this was when they were trying to push the game, 2003 more or less. Next up, we have Risen Dead 2. Now, what is this? These are 4 undead templates. What does that mean? It basically means taking creatures that you are used to in the normal monster manual and giving them a totally different vibe. So like Bodak creatures, right? Using this template, you get different kinds of Bodaks, right? And what are Bodaks? It says here Bodaks are undead remnants of people destroyed by absolute evil. Yeah, so you got that, and then you got ghoulish creatures and ghastly creatures, and then you have Scions of Caius. So these are all the different templates that you can use, to add on to your monster manual, right? Moving along, we have Heroes of Cormyr, and this is for your Faerun campaign, and these are basically prestige classes that you can add, with your GM's consent, of course, to your game, if you want to add these, or you want to actually adventure in Faerun, right? So they give you all of these different prestige classes. And then they got Myriador, and this is fighting fantasy. What this company used to do is they used to take the fighting fantasy books and then fighting fantasy books and adapt them to the D20 systems, which I thought was kind of interesting. Anyways, we move on. We have the Haunted Bridge. Now, interesting, because this is written by Ed Greenwood. Yes, that Ed Greenwood. Now, in case you do not know, the Forgotten Realms w- uh, has origins in Dragon magazine. This is where, Ed Greenwood would write about the Forgotten Realms, and became popular, and it became one of those settings that a lot of players like. So yeah, so articles like this, had legs, back in the day. Anyways, you got a little map there of the bridge, and then you got this article over here. This is revision 3.5 update, and this is basically anticipating the 3.5 rule set, that's the rule book that's coming out, and this is where they share their thoughts, right, on moving to the next edition, which I thought was very, very interesting because Paizo, after they lost the license, um, started Pathfinder. Now, this is where the split happened, more or less. Some folks prefer the Pathfinder system. Some folks stayed with the traditional D&D, and it's kind of neat because you can actually see the thoughts of the rules writers right here as they go through the revisions before the book actually comes out. Moving along, we've got Shadowbane, and this is basically a computer game, and you've got you can add this. You can actually, they tell you everything you need to know about the two PC races, right? But you can actually they show you how to include them into your game if you want to, or if you just want to include this into your campaign, you can do this. You can follow the guide on this bar, or you want to make this one of your characters, you can use about this bar to help you do that. Right, taking something from a computer game and putting it into your tabletop. Next up is Mongoose Publishing. Ah, yes. And then we have Good Monsters, prestige classes for cultists of good monsters. So in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, you got the good and neutral, the evil, the chaotic, and such. And this is basically now if you want to play a cultist of a particular monster, you can, right? And this is a guide to do that. All the good monsters, like the White Horn, which is basically what I think is like a unicorn and stuff like that. So you got all of this different prestige classes for you to choose from, which is great. Again, the dragon is filled with lore and suggestions and stuff like that. So it's a great read. If you're thinking about how else to make your games exciting or new angles and stuff like that, dragon is definitely the way to go. Moving forward, we have the Song of Ice and Fire, in a really small fantasy world of Westeros, and this is pretty much 2003. So I think the third book that just come out, and not many people outside the fantasy world knew what a Westeros was. So in fact, a lot of fantasy guys did not know what a fantasy Westeros was, and this basically sets it up, right? Tells you about House Baratheon, House Lannister, and so on and so forth. And then you got the Awakening Darkness, the Ice Wall campaign. So they give you a campaign as well for you to play. And check this out. So you got Jon Snow as a character, right? The Stark Bastard. In this one, they say that Jon Snow is the male human fighter, right? So ranger, right, as well. So if you were interested and you saw this magazine somewhere and you pick it up, you can actually use Jon Snow as a character in Westeros, or use that character and add it to your game. Do whatever you want, but whatever it is, the sandbox is here, right? So you got like Jon Snow, you got Melisandre, and then you have let me see now, yeah, both of them, right? Okay, moving along, you got the Clash of Kings, and this is pretty much setting up the intrigue, right, in Westeros. So they talk about the Lannisters and and so on and so forth with Tyrion. So for folks who are just getting into the world, this was a good primer to get started as you go back and start reading book 1. Of course, again, this is just book 3, so this is quite a while back. And as moving along, we have an interview with George R. Martin, and it talks about his writing, the history, and his gaming. Like things like this. perhaps shocking to D&D players, Martin's group system is not the D20 system. Gasp! So there you go. An interesting interview, um, and pretty much with its roots in role playing, which I thought was nice way to look at, nice way to write the article. So then we have the DM's toolbox, and this is just advice for dungeon masters. And here is where the question is, what if one of your characters wants to play a monster? So monster PC, right? So can I play a troll? You cannot play a troll as a PC. And here's just a guide and advice on how to include that, how to tackle that in your session, which I thought is a really good article. And then you have Wizards Workshop power plays, move and spell combos, and these are basically combos that these days is integral, but yeah, combos nevertheless. And then you got class abilities, official answer. This is the FAQ more or less. So folks would write questions, and then we answer them. And you can actually email the questions to the TSR page, which is kind of cool. And some ads, and then you got Nodwick. If you're a new RPGer, check out Nodwick. Nodwick's quite fun. I think you can get the collected Nodwick as well. If you want, check them out. It's always nice to have comics or cartoons about the hobby. Then you have like Crystal Cast. I don't know what this is. I don't think I ever got anything from them, but their miniatures do look quite nice. The Elf Sarah Adventure Set too. Finally, it's the ad for Origins 2003. Yep, I was right, 2003. And this is Dark Tower Kovalik. So that is Dragon Magazine. Alright, so this is Dungeon Magazine. Now, Dungeon Magazine was more for the Dungeon Masters, and I'm going to show you why I've added this as an extra flip through, because, well, you'll see. So Dungeon Magazine ended its run in 1986. I think it started in 1986. It ended its run in 2007, and this, like I said, is for the Dungeon Master. And I'll explain why in a bit. Again, we have an ad from Reaper, and then the table of contents, right? And then we have the Origins ad for Origins, and then we got Dark Sun. Oh, a lot of folks like that. Actually, yeah, I quite like the Dark Sun setting as well. It's different. And then you got the mail, where folks send in snail mail, and then there's a reply. Oh, at this point there was email as well, so that's great. And then we have the first officially sanctioned D&D 3.5 DM screen. You can buy it now for $6. There you go. Moving along. Okay, so why am I adding this flip through to another magazine flip through? Because of things like this. Now this is an adventure called the Iron Setter, and it's for any setting, as it says over there. It's for high levels 11 plus, and this is a planar adventure. What does that mean? It's basically a multiverse kind of thing, multi-planes. And what this magazine does, it gives you everything you need to play this adventure, right? And by letting you know what the parameters are by which adventures you can play, right? It helps you like choose whether this is what you want to add to your game when your characters have reached that level, or if you are playing a planner, a campaign, and you're wondering, how to start off. This is a great way to kick it off. Of course, this is for higher level, so you'd probably know the planes, and you probably know the game pretty well before you get this. But if you're new and you would have just picked this up out of nowhere, this gives you some idea as a GM on what is involved to run a planner campaign, right? And then with Dungeon Magazine, you've got this thing called scaling the adventure, which is almost in all the adventures. And here's how you scale them down, right? Or scale them up depending on your group. So the scaling helps change the ELs and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. Encounter levels. Anyways, moving along, we got some maps. This is the Stone Giant Caverns. You can use this map, if you like are playing a game and you want a map really quick, and you didn't have time to draw it up. You can just flip through this magazine or photostat it or whatever it is, and use it in your game. Very nice. These are all Dungeon Master, Game Master resources. Moving along, we have Challenge of Champions 5. Now, this was a series that they ran. What these is basically adventures that you can include to any of your games, right? Any of your games, and this for any level of play, right? And that's the one reason why I chose this particular magazine to share. Why? Because this campaign is the kind of campaign that most GMs need, right? Because you get busy and then you want to you don't have time to do a campaign. You just pull this out and you can already run it. So that's a couple of weeks worth of gaming by just getting the magazine, right? Which is great, and it's well thought of and thought out. So you don't have to worry too much, and just run it blindly or just follow the sequence as a dungeon master. If you're a new dungeon master, these are the resources that would be really helpful. So yeah, there you go. And then we have a comic strip over here. And then, would you believe it, over here we've got Dark Matter, Polyhedron, issue 167. And what is this? This is basically before that there's a map here as well. So what is Dark Matter? So Dark Matter is basically something from Alternity by TSR, and this article pretty much moves it to D20, right? And Dark Matter is pretty much X-Files. So it's what they've done here. Sorry, let me do it again. What they've done here is they've taken a system from Alternity at TSR and they've ported it to D20 Modern, and they've given it the flavor of X-Files and stuff like that. So with this magazine, you can actually run a X-Files sort of game. So you got part 1, these are heroes, these are the characters that you want to run in the game, right? And the different classes and stuff like that you can choose. And then your prestige classes, right? Pretty much standard for your D20. Please note that this is actually using the source from Alternity, but porting it over to D20. Then you got part 2, and part 2 is how to run a Dark Matter game, right? And yeah, like I said, it's very X-Filesy, very conspiracy stuff. So if you're into that, this would be perfect for you. And as you can see, just getting this magazine, it pretty much sets you up to play. Then you got your xenoforms, and these are pretty much your monsters, your creatures and stuff like that. Your starters. How's that? Your starters that you want to use for your games, right? And this is really cool because you have a totally new system to use. Okay, fine, it's ported into D20, but it also introduces Alternity, which if you did not know what it was, now because you've seen this, you can actually go and check it out, which is very cool. And then you got an ad for Edican or Edicolor. They're no longer around. In fact, I don't think I've got any Edican figures. I got to double check. But there's an ad for them. And then Final Fantasy as the end. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles as the back. So that's pretty much it. That's Dungeon Magazine. Like I said, it's very quick. Very quick a flip through because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody if you happen to get it. And then this is Dragon Magazine. Both very crucial for RPGs 10-20 years ago, but that doesn't mean that this is not useful now. I think for most RPGs, resources like this are kind of nice to have. If you find this in the bargain bin, right? That's right. If you find it in a bargain bin or somebody's collection and they're selling it, or a secondary market, I do recommend picking it up. It's kind of useful. The articles are kind of nice. I think a lot of articles in Dungeon Magazine and Dragon Magazine are quite evergreen. Just tweak some stuff to your game, and it should be okay. The ideas are just gold. So that's pretty much it. That is the RPG magazines that used to be out. I can look for the others. I think I've got the White Wolf magazine as well. I'll probably go through them all. Yeah, because I think the RPG hobby is underrepresented on this channel, and I'd just like to do a couple of videos for it. So that's pretty much it. Hope you like this. If you do, let me know, and I'll see what I can do to do more. Right. So like and subscribe, and don't forget to enjoy painting those figures.